What is up, everybody? Hello, 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 guys. Welcome to another Pixel stream. My name's Ian, also known as IR Sculpts, and we sculpting. We sculpting fun stuff today. What's up, Daisuke? What's up, Tarhell45? Josh Purple, with your name very, very purple against the blue background. What's going on, Gina? What's going on, Sid? Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. So, welcome. Happy New Year's for those of you, well, since my first stream of 2022. Even though we're about a week in. Hopefully you guys' week has been good. What's up, Matt? So today, first things first, I want to let you guys know that I did finish the Demon Slayer piece. And I just want to kind of showcase that for those of you who may not know what piece that is. It's in, I've already sliced it, and now I'm kind of working on, where is it? I am kind of working on making sure that it's printable. And I'm torturing myself by doing it all in PLA. So that'd be fun. But there we go, detailing. Just kind of want to showcase what it looked like when it was all sliced up. So yes, but here is the Demon Slayer piece. Let's actually go ahead and put a little bit of ambient occlusion on there just to see it a little bit more. So here it is. I promise there'll be no Demon Slayer spoilers. But here is the piece. I'm going to also come up with a good render. It will be a portfolio piece. So yeah, it'll be super fun. Going on Plush Case. How's everyone doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. What's new one? What's new on project today? What's the new project today? So the project today, hopefully you could see the little dancing muscle mice. It's from Demon Slayer. I thought it'd be fun. You know, just a nice little simplistic way to start off the new year. So, but this is where we left off, and also to real quick, let me kind of show you the blown up version. I simplified it for myself, so I broke it down into a few pieces, as I personally just didn't want this to be a ton of little pieces this time around. So that's what we got. I'm probably going to reslice it more complicated and more proper on some downtime, but for now, this will do the trick. What's up, Brian J. Crew? What is going on? Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start working with our mice. work it, Sparkle. Muscle. Yeah, I'm super in love with what's going on with the new season. So, all right, so let's start with the Blockout. It'll be fun. I figure we'll do the Blockout today. Next week, we'll probably finish it off. It'll be good. What's going on, Even? Welcome in. And you guys know, especially if you're, and if you don't, and you're new here, you can ask questions. You can always hit me up, and you know, if there's something with ZBrush that you are curious about, want to see, or maybe you're having problems with, I will do my best to answer it. I don't know everything, but I'm always learning too. So feel free to ask the questions, and we'll try to hopefully solve it together. So. First things first, let's make let's just block this guy out. I'm gonna use the Mighty Move brush. We're just gonna make a rib cage. You know what? we're gonna do this all in Dynamesh, because why not? So we're gonna go to Geometry, Dynamesh. We're gonna kick this at about 64 resolution. With 0 blur, we'll go ahead and Dynamesh that. So that'll keep our mesh down as something a little fun, a little simple. Let's get this mouse going. So we'll first start off by making the rib cage. New season? Wait, did they start next season? Yep, they already started a new season. You have 6? I want to say 6 episodes to jump in there. So feel free, get in there. Hello, what's up, Eric? Way long time. Had a little problem when I merged visible subtools and export as OBJ to send to Maya and texture. When I open the ZBrush file, it's split into different parts. And so you merged multiple parts together. You merged visible subtools, and then you export it as one. Send to Maya the texture when you open the ZBrush file, it's split into different parts. That might be something to do. That might be something to do with Maya's side, because if you merge visible, maybe try opening the OBJ file in another program, or load it back up in the ZBrush and see if it if it comes back in multiple parts. If it does come into multiple parts when you load it back into ZBrush, then maybe try again. But I have not had that issue, so. Turn off group in the settings. Try that too, yes. I'm assuming what you did. Let me see something real quick. Let's actually just make real quick. Let's actually duplicate this. Let's put this here. I'm going to duplicate this one and we'll put this here. Let's try something real fast. So maybe we can replicate it. Assuming you went to export as OBJ. Oh no, we have to do merge visible. Sorry. 1 second. Bloop. Merge visible. So you had something like this. And then you went to export OBJ. Just put it on the desktop. We load. Actually, not load. Let's go here. Let's import OBJ. The bottom should come in as the one piece. Should be that. That's how I would recommend doing it. Might be an import option in my determine. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. What's the best way to export multiple sub to another program? Best way, in my opinion, to export anything from ZBrush into any other program, I use the FBX method. So what I do, if I have a big file, where are we? I have a big file like this, and I want to export this out into here, hold on. I have too many things open. Let me clean this up a little bit. 1 second. I like to use FBX, but I like to use FBX through the export option. So what I would do is I go to export, and I would actually come down here to FBX. FBX is very universal, and it works wonders with almost any other program. Go ahead and name your file whatever it is you want to name it, and hit save. And then what I do is I select everything. Depending on what it is, you have 3 options. You have selected, which means just the subtool that you currently have selected, so it can be by itself. Visible, so that's anything that's visible in the viewport. Or all, which is everything, whether it's visible or not, doesn't matter. It'll take everything within that set, and it'll export it out. I usually will do all because I've kind of deleted the things that I don't want. But if you have certain things selected and you're hiding certain things and you don't want to delete, stick with visible, which is good. You can export cameras, but I usually turn that off. And then I leave everything else alone. Default FBX 2020, and I say okay. And then I bring that into any other program that I might need it for. So that's how I recommend doing it. You can go up here to Z plugin, FBX export import plugin, which is defaults, which has the same options. But for some reason, I have had FBXs kind of get corrupted when I do it this way. So I tend to default here to the export, and I've been doing it this way for about a year. But you have this option up here too, which is the same difference, or at least it should be, so give that a shot. Oh man, did I delete? I think I deleted I think I deleted the wrong file. I mean, we barely built anything, so let's go ahead and no, not split hidden. Let's just delete stuff. Hey, let's try this again. Let's see. Okay, I'm following. Nice, man. Nice. Exporting FBX MA file format would be the easiest. Boom. Thank you, Daisuke. Is there any streamers in the Pixar team that deals more with anime figure sculpting? Daisuke's here. He does anime sculpting. I am learning anime sculpting, as in you guys saw me do the Demon Slayer piece, which I tried to keep it as traditional anime as possible, but I have a lot to learn still in that front, so I'm currently in the process of getting better at it. But I would say, yeah, I do anime sculpting as well as some stylized stuff. I would say Daisuke, he knows. I don't think I've asked you this. How would you suggest doing my 52 blend shapes in ZBrush? Oh man, layers. I would say do layers on top of it. maybe try with like the simple movements, like do one movement at a time. You know, do like the maybe like get a blend shape of the cheeks moving to kind of open or widen the mouth. Then maybe do one where the jaw is just all from neutral poses. The jaw is dropped a little bit. Paul DC's done some stuff like that. I recommend checking him out too for that stuff. I've seen him do blend shapes, and yeah, he knows what's up. But if I were to do it, that's how I would do it. Difference you're looking at it means portfolio is a lot of animated. Oh, thanks. All right, let's get the neck going here. Cozy add-on is pretty reliable for transferring the mesh to and from other software. Indeed. Thanks for the help. Sakaki knows his stuff. Absolutely, Sakaki, aka SK. Like your boyfriend, I was working on Sculpt for him. For my first attempt, I like this the other day. Nice. Oh, I would love to see that. I would love to see that. You'll have to stop by my Discord and drop it off, which is right here, down the bottom. Do you ever experience lag on two video platforms? Because I'm watching on here and YouTube. YouTube, I think, has still a little bit of some lag, just a smidget. I think it has just a better buff rate. Typically, Twitch is a little bit more instantaneous. Okay, we're gonna just focus on the midsection for right now. I'm gonna go ahead and mask off this area now that we got some sort of rib cage. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this down. So we're starting with a relatively decent human torso, but then we're gonna be changing it very soon. Sweet. Try to watch Sakaki, but I don't know enough to understand what he's doing by following along. I don't understand Japanese. I follow along as well, although I would say I consider myself not to know Japanese. Learning it very beginner, very, very basic. A lot of it goes over my head. But what I recommend you do is, if you look at his ZBrush and kind of pause it for a second, and if there's a technique he's doing, you can kind of pause it. And what I've done before is just kind of counted how many, like where that menu he opened is up a little bit. This is obviously watching it while he's not streaming live, and I've kind of gone through and seen it there. But after a while, you kind of see things repeat themselves. Us artists tend to use the same techniques over and over and over again, and so you can kind of figure it out slowly. But more than anything, when he's sculpting, language or not, just mute it and just kind of watch. If the language is kind of giving you a hard time from focusing, I would say just mute it and just watch him with some music in the background and just kind of see what he's doing. He's very technical, which I love, which can make for some very long processes. But if you're dedicated to try to learn it, I would definitely just say just stick in there, watch it, kind of pause it, see where he's at. Daisuke, I can't remember if do you know if he has his ZBrush in English or if he has it in Japanese? He has it in Japanese, I think, right? Also, Sakaki's UI is English. Nice. So it's not too hard to follow. You answered my question. Never mind. Who did you say to watch for blend shapes? All DC. I'm gonna type it. All DC. He's done blend shapes before. I think, don't quote me on this one, but I think ZBrush Summit 2020, he showcased blend shapes. If you type in Pixologic Summit 2020 blend shapes, you probably will find the good video. For Daisuke for a win. Thanks, buddy! Okay, you know what? Actually, I'm going to go ahead. I need to set this back to Dynamesh. So let's do this. Let's go 64, 3, whatever, that works. Nobody's perfect here. I am just kind of getting everything blocked out. We're just doing it the Dynamesh way. Build that. Let's identify his back a little bit. I'm actually going to darken this color just a little bit. Get that spine indent going on back there. But I'm still just going to use the move brush for now because I feel like that's the easiest way to do it. I'm not going to focus too much on his neck, but I'm going to focus on a place for his neck to be so we have good placement when we stick his mouse head on top. But we're just going to do some human anatomy stuff first. Strong mouse. Yep. These characters are so freaking adorable that I was like, yep, gonna have to do that. Okay, so real quick, we're just gonna landmark some spots on his chest. So we're just gonna go ahead and kind of mark off where shoulders and his lower pecs are gonna be. And then same thing right down the center. We're going to get just a little bit of indentation. I'm going to take the clay buildup. Just slowly just build up where X would be. Kind of carve just a little bit. Right about there. You always want the arms to be coming in from just under the pec. So that's really where we're focused on right now. Then of course too, just take a look at anatomy reference. Always have anatomy reference. I have some anatomy reference on the side. It's the best. We can't learn it all the time. So having that right there will be super helpful. So that's going to be his triceps right there. Arms, we'll just leave a little note for ourselves that that's going to be tricep. Now these muscles come from underneath. The whole rib cage wraps from here to here. It's a whole wraparound. We want to make sure we hold on to that. Go. And then we'll go ahead and bring in our landmarks for our traps. Next right about there. And then there is a bone right here, so we're going to leave an indentation there. And then we have our clavicle. And then we can actually kind of carve in this neck muscle right up here, just to get that quick landmark. That's a flat spot. There we go. Now let's go ahead and actually just increase the resolution just a little bit. Nothing too crazy, just so we can see those notes. Super ugly right at the moment, but it's not about keeping it super beautiful. It's just getting things in there as quick as possible. Hey, let's see. Shane! What's going on? How do you do the spine so quick and straight? Oh, great question. So what I did is I have Damn Standard on, and Damn Standard defaults with the stroke with the lazy mouse set to just lazy radius 1. So what I did was to sculpt a straight line from one point to another on anything with lazy mouse turned on. Push down on the pen to start the process, then hold shift, and you'll get this line. And there's a number attached to it. 0. This is your degree from your starting point to your finishing point. And if you hold spacebar, you can actually move that location if you would like. So what I did was I started right in the center because I have symmetry turned on. Started here, held shift, came straight down till it read 0. Let go, which gave me that nice straight cut. And then went ahead and just quickly smoothed it by holding shift. Smooth that out. That way I have that nice landmark there. It makes it super easy. I wonder if that I wonder if that muscle is more rat or human. Like, it is so odd. But I'm gonna choose to go because right here, like, hold on. It's a great question, dude. I thought the same thing. So because here he has such human forms in this pose, you know, such like a bodybuilder pose, I'm gonna go top part. I'm gonna go top part humanoid, but you can see here on his forearm, it quickly turns into rat anatomy. So I'm gonna be kind of mixing the two. Let's hope this looks good. If anybody here is wondering, like, how should I, could I? I'll test it for you. Hello, George. How you doing? Yeah, of course, Shane. Ninja rat. He's part of the, if the translation is correct, because I watch it in Japanese with English subtitles. The group he's with is part of a shinobi clan, so he's like a shinobi, which I believe is a ninja group. So he has like a shinobi muscle rat human thing. Tiny human with big rat helmet. Exactly, yeah. So it's super fun. Yeah. It's weird and I like it. That's why we're sculpting it. When I first started sculpting a lot, I think it was Shane Olson who had told me one time, like, man, if it makes you smile, like, sculpt it. And these little dudes, they came on screen. I was like, oh my god, have to do it. Have to do it. So right now I'm just kind of blocking out where the end of his torso would be down to his crotch region, and then we're going to go ahead and make his legs. Kind of just getting something quick. We'll do proportions after we have a basic shape. Oh, and the other thing I want to do real quick actually is focus right here. Let's get this like Naruto and yeah. Rat anatomy is hard to learn. I bet it is, yeah. Do our best. Why not? Go. So we're just going to kind of look. We're going to get our mask lasso. That's not it. Lasso? There you go, Ian. Eee. We're going to mark that. We're going to go ahead and push right about there. We're going to get a slight bend because we are doing T-pose, but we want that information that the forearm and the elbow, that's where it's connecting. And then when we dynamesh that, we keep that nice little bend. That gives us some landmarks. And then I like to mark out all my anatomy landmarks with the Dan standard. So I will just kind of come through and just start marking where stuff should be. Even if you're going stylized, just marking where the anatomy should be is always super helpful, because then, you know, you'll know where to have certain things come through where other things should. We also have a muscle right there for the bicep. Again, I'm not really worried about cleanliness. I'm just kind of making shapes. I'm gonna create this armpit. I'm gonna push that in. Vectorous. Hey, Ian, just curious, will you print this model? I typically print all of my models. Typically. It's rare that I don't, so that's always the plan. And it's always the plan to break it up or at least showcase some stuff on the stream at the end of each project. So the short answer is yes. Now right here, you want to cut this little triangle in a little bit. Just kind of move that down to redefine how these shoulders are and where the actual pec connects. Kind of kick that in a little bit. like to do with the deltoids. I like to kind of landmark 3 little spots. Deltoids consistent. 3 little muscles. There. Okay. That's enough detail for now. Get that back placement in just a little bit. So IR means Ian Robinson. That's my name. I just shortened it up to have a handle. It worked one day. Posted a pic of Bo Burnham attempt in the work in progress Discord, but remember, just from one season, and it's still very work in progress, especially the beard in here. No worries, no worries. I could take a look at it now, or we could take a look at it after after the stream. I can always pop in and take a look. Up to you. I never want to share anything that but hey, what's going on? But definitely love to take a look at stuff. I'll just kind of peek through. Ooh. Oh, that's cool. Ooh, I like that. I do not care. You can share if you want, but also don't want to distract you. No, man. We are artists all here together. This is it. And this looks really cool. I love this. Yeah. This is really cool. Great work in progress. Keep pushing it. Really just study like the landmarks of the face a little bit. But dude, this is looking great. I cannot wait to see you finish it. Awesome. Awesome stuff. Insect anatomy is very hard to oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Yeah, he's starting to come through. He looks great, man. Keep going. Keep going. Good job. All right. That pec carved in there. Now abs, I'll tell you right now, I don't usually do abs symmetrical, but to kind of just get some really, quick anatomy reference, that's the only time you'll really see me like carving abs like that. It's just a helpful way to kind of get the anatomy blocked out so you can kind of see where things go, but it's nowhere near, should be nowhere near permanent. Always sculpt your abs asymmetrically. That's my advice. But for this, it'll work out just fine. Okay. Let's get some rat legs on him. Now, I am going to... So I like to showcase how I look for reference, and the way I look for reference, honestly, is just Google. I just do Google a lot. So I'll type in rat leg anatomy. I'll go to images. This is... And then there's also, you can use Pinterest and stuff, but I find that Google's a nice way to kind of get some decent reference. And so something like this is perfect. And then what I'll do is I have my reference page up here. And so I'll just go ahead and drag and drop from the Google to the PureRef. You don't need to download them or save them, just drag and drop, and boom, you have it, which is nice. So I'll typically do this a couple times, just get a couple references, and then we'll sculpt it out. That should be plenty. Now I'm going to do the legs separately. I kind of kept this connected for now, but let's actually insert a new sphere, and let's do it just a little bit different. This will be an asymmetrical sculpt. Insert initial Sculpts guy. What's up, MJ Sculpts? How you doing, buddy? Thanks. Yeah, let's see. Are you using PureRef support GIF? I'm using PureRef. I don't have any GIFs in there. No. The abs, though. Yeah. Okay, where can I join the Discord to show my models? Right here. Oop. I have a link tree. Just go ahead and follow it. Click that link, drop it all the way down at the bottom, and it'll be Discord link. You can also see a bunch of my uploads and free STLs as well. Okay, let's go ahead. Now we're gonna go elongate, and we're just gonna get our rat's leg built. Now I'm gonna be doing this asymmetrically because they are. Because why not? My answer for a lot of things. Why do you do that? Because. Get kind of round thigh going. Just worried about the front. We'll get his buttocks in there a little bit later. Going for the basic shape. So for anybody who's new, a lot of what I do is just kind of brute force sculpt. I see what it is I'm supposed to be doing, so I just move it around until I think it matches as close to the reference as possible. So I'm just trying to keep that basic shape. Just look at the silhouette and kind of just see, oh, what does that shape look like, and then try to replicate that. And it looks like he has massive, massive thighs and skinny little legs. And since it's anime, it's super pushed anatomy, right? And the hard part about 3D printing really skinny legs is keeping that balance. Now, the good part is our character here has a tail. So I'm going to be doing what I like to call the tripod effect, which is I'll have 3 points of contact on the base so that it will stand every time guaranteed. And this right here is a great opportunity to have thinner legs and having this third base. So the tail we're going to modify and drop it to the ground, similar to what's going on here. So when we make that base and he's posing, that tail is going to help support the character. And then, of course, too, we're going to want a nice solid base with a hollow upper body. We'll get to that when we finally start breaking it down. But just kind of important to remember little things like that. Be a thick boy. Does not skip lifting. I love peer ref so much. Such a simple tool. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a perfect tool for reference. Let's go ahead and hit Dynamesh for this. So I start off in Dynamesh, and then I move eventually to some form of ZBrush mesh, some nice clean topology. But for blockouts, this is typically it. Okay, now for this, I'm gonna go pretty simple. I'm gonna hit B. I'm gonna hit B-I-T. We're gonna pull up our standard IMM primitives brush, which is defaulted in ZBrush, and I'm just gonna use, more than likely, just an insert cylinder. I'm gonna draw this out, snap it, because his leg is just a kind of tapered cylinder. What we'll do here, clear that mask. It's actually split hidden. We'll go to subtool, split hidden. Okay. Here, pass this section off. I'm gonna kind of taper that a bit. There we go. I do not use Unity, no. In the toy industry, there's really not a need for using Unity, Unreal. The tools I use is 95% of the time I'm using ZBrush, and then I use the ZBrush bridge to Keyshot to render stuff out. It's rare that I use anything else because my job is just to sculpt the character as close to possible, get it approved, and then send it off to be sliced up and diced and all that good stuff. So, I mean, literally ZBrush is the only tool I really need for my job, which is nice. Yo, what's up, Tafon? How you doing, buddy? Welcome in, welcome in. What 3D printer do you use? My brother just got me an Ender 3 for Christmas. Nice! But I haven't found time to get into it yet. So I use Ender 3 Pro, which is personally one of my favorite. And then I use the Epax X1, which is a resin printer. For that, I would say, you know, resin's a little bit different than PLA, but at the end of the day, the same techniques are similar to understanding slicing and stuff, but those are the two I use. The Epax X1 is very similar to the Elgu Mars or any Cubic, the base models, so it's not a very big machine. I eventually want to try to get like a Saturn or something, just because I want a bigger print volume, which is why I'm actually printing the Demon Slayer piece in PLA, because I just want a massive print. So I figured it'd be a lot easier that way. Yeah. So awesome. The Ender 3 is actually a really great printer to start printing with. So highly recommend jumping on that. You'll love it. Especially if you're building the kit yourself. Because then if something goes wrong, you can troubleshoot it pretty easily. We're going to clip curve and just kind of clip that base a little flat. And then for simplistic use, I'm going to take the Dynamesh. And the damn standard. And I'm going to make little indications of where his little rat toes should be. Or mice toe. That's not right. We'll start with 3, and then we'll finalize it when it gets. There we go. It's already starting to look ridiculous, and I love it. Hello, Metal Gear. How you doing? Ratatouille. Oh, I love it. That's ridiculous, and I love it. Okay. Now I want to move some multiple objects at the same time. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hit this little pizza box, which is right here when I open up the gizmo. I'm going to hit that pizza box, and then I'm going to hold Shift and Control and tap subtools that I want to move. And then I can go ahead kind of move that around until I'm satisfied with what. And then I'm going to deselect by holding Control Shift and tapping again. Then I'm going to go ahead and bring that so it looks right about there. Now, even though this will never stand this way, this is just kind of a little bit of a reference to continue building up the rest of it. We'll end up fixing it as we go along. And what's really cool is we don't really need to get too crazy with any muscle definition, because is completely covered in fur. So we'll get the basic shape, but we won't define the muscles because it's just fur we're working with. So we just need a simple shape. And if you ever bring that up again, you can just... There we go. That like such. Down a little bit. Maybe scale that down just a midget. Off that one, reset, kind of put that back. You know what? Let's actually reshape this. It is close as we can. There we go. That'll be better. Try to keep things T-poses up. Yeah, the Saturns look cool. Looks like they got pretty decent resolution. Yeah, the Saturns are pretty good resolution. If you print, with most printers, if you print slow, you'll get better resolution, typically. That's not always a rule of thumb, but... You know, because obviously the print's going to take much longer at that point. But... it is something to kind of just note. Okay. Now we can work symmetrically with these two items. I just did a mirror and weld. And my keypad is set up the same way here, where you just go to geometry, modify topology, and then you have mirror and weld. Now we can kind of fix the little region. Round off that torso one more time. Get these lats better. Play build up. I kind of dig in right here where the abs would be connecting, but underneath this pec a little bit. Love my Saturn for resin and the SVO2 for my FTM. SVO2, I don't recognize that one. But yeah, I mean, if it works, it works. That's the best part, right? So right here, it's important, real quick anatomy note, when you're doing lats, they kind of they connect from underneath, and then they wrap around. And not that you could see, I'm just raising my arm. So right here where the bicep connects in, the lats kind of connect from underneath, which helps give you that armpit underneath there. So what I like to do is I like to come in here with the clay buildup, the damn standard, and just kind of carve in this area nice and slowly, which then gives you that effect that we've been going. And then the lats will come in, wrap around. Don't forget too where the lats connect on the rib cage, which gives us those the serrated sides when they're really shredded. But here it's not too terribly. He's shredded, but he's also stylized, so we're not gonna get too crazy with that. I'm not trying to go super realistic yet. Although who knows, we might. Oval. Can do dual color, 2 extrusion. Oh, nice! Ooh, anatomy, my favorite part. Yeah! Here to the legs. Let's get some resemblance of just a knee shape here. Up a little bit. Not much of a calf, I would say. Like little sticks, but we still want to shape it. So we're gonna shape it semi-calf shape. And let's do this. Let's do Dynamesh, but we're going to turn groups on. So it'll keep our groups together, but not weld them. We'll up the resolution because these are small. There we go. Up a little bit. Here, let's actually up the resolution on that. There we go. Okay. Now, actually, what I will do, just for fun, why not? We will get just a little bit of leg anatomy in here, just to help kind of make sure that it reads right. So, went back on everything. So the back of the leg, if you think of the back of the leg as a bicep, it kind of helps everything out. Think of the quads as kind of as the tricep of the arm, and think of the back as the bicep of the arm. You'll have an easier time kind of seeing the anatomy for what it is. Just doing some quick line marks here. But we're going to be quickly smoothing that out. Not too worried about it. Now let's get his butt in there. Tuck that in. Now let's go ahead and grab that same IMM primitive by hitting BIT. We're going to grab some spheres. Now we're going to make 2 sliced hands. Now let's get this. Let's get this going. Sure, this looks super awkward. Pretty sure I'm new to Twist, but I was thinking about streaming sculpting myself, and I was wondering about Twitch TOS with sculpting a female form pre-clothing. Do you have to avoid sculpting breasts, or does it not count the TOS violation since it's just artwork and sculpting and not pornographic in any way? Should I avoid it? Avoid it if you can. I know if you can avoid it, the more realistic it is, the more chances you have of being flagged, in my personal experience, because I used to stream a lot during the start of the pandemic. So I would say avoid it where you can. That's just going to keep things a little bit easier and safer for your channel, especially growing. But that being said, I mean, it's arguable too. So I'd say when in doubt, maybe just don't, as like a good rule of thumb. I personally haven't had any issues, but I also haven't, like when I was sculpting, in fact, here, let me give you an example. I'll go full frame for this because I actually have the print right here, and hopefully you guys can see it. But let's see, full screen. Okay, so when I was sculpting Vega versus Chun-Li, oh, I glued it in. Anyway, let's see if you could see it. And I can show the model too, but she's just in underwear and a shirt, essentially. But I didn't show anything that would make it rated R. So maybe, you know, just if that helps, that was fine. And, you know, I can actually load the file too, just to give you a little bit more an example. But at the end of the day, if you're in doubt, don't even show it. But I've never been flagged, but I've made sure not to do. I've always added clothing, I guess is what I'm saying. And I haven't detailed it too much. Let me pull it up real quick. Let's see. Wow. I just went brain dead. Where did I put it? When you have so many drives. Let's see, storage? I'm gonna go file digging for you. And I did it in 2021. I believe. Yeah, Vega versus Chun-Li. Vega versus Chun-Li. So here, I'll load up this file. Makes sense, yeah. Always. Hello, welcome in. Okay, ZBrush is thinking. It's a big file. All right, here we go. So this was the piece, and this is the detail and the amount of detail that she was in. And this piece was fine. So I would say, you know, if you have it around this area, just, you know, keep clothing on it. I think you'll be fine. But, you know, again, if you're not sure and you're just starting your channel, maybe just be safe. But yeah, this was the piece. So you can see from every angle. What I did when I was sculpting this and I had her by herself, I made sure to keep her like at a color like this, you know, so you can see it's a full body, but I kept it at a weird color. If it looks more human and gets flagged, the robots flag you. So now we got this. Heck. Too much like red wax. You can't do that. Thanks, man. Thanks. we're going to do here too, we're going to kind of pull this back just a little bit more. We're always looking for some sort of S-curve shape within our models. Get that lower back in there. Bring these lats up a little bit because that information is just a little bit wrong. Kind of pull that down just a smidget. When in doubt, red wax it up. Exactly. ZBrush is paid. I'm guessing the company you work for covers it. I'm not quite sure what you mean. I bought and purchased ZBrush myself. I've been working in ZBrush for over 6 years now, and my first purchase was the ZBrush Core. I did that for about 2 years, then I bought ZBrush outright. Saved up a penny or two to make sure that that worked. I'm trying to get this a little bit closer together, so what you can do is you can actually go up to Brush, and then you can go to Auto Masking and turn on Topological, and you can even adjust do that back face. Topologically, you can adjust that range, and by doing that, you can actually bring two items together a lot closer. There you go. Same thing, we're going to do Dynamesh, we're going to keep groups on. Where's that in a bit? ZBrush is a specialized program that is designed to focus on high resolution sculpting. It is proficient and it is pretty much like designed for that purpose. So whereas other programs don't quite have the sculpting down as locked, in my humble opinion. ZBrush's proficiency in sculpting, it trumps pretty much everybody else. So it's hard to compare ZBrush to any other program because it specializes in sculpting and sculpting alone, with some added 2.5 features that it originally did, whereas other programs tend to be a jack of all trades. So ZBrush is a sculpting program, and it is amazing. Why I've been using it for so long. In my opinion, it's kind of a apples and oranges comparison. Boot it! You know it! YouTuber is more strict than Twitch TOS. Unless you start going into details, you should be fine. Absolutely. Hey, not a problem. Yep. Glad to be helpful in any way. Okay, let's go back to Brush, and we're going to turn off back face and topological. So, I'm going to get this back in here. And eventually we'll merge the legs together, and then we'll start getting that stuff ready for some retopology. Like I said, we're going to be going a little stylized, so I'm not too worried about making this look crazy realistic in any way. Just building up forms as we go. We're gonna smooth a lot. Okay. Let's get this rat forearm looking a little bit more like the... It's really just kind of ball. Weird. It's weird and I like it. It's like a giant forearm. It's almost like a Popeye forearm, I guess we could say. Very round and very bubbly. Same with... We're going to start really pushing now. Now that we got our shapes out, we're really going to start pushing and pulling to make it match what it is. So this is where it's going to go from a kind of realistic approach to more of a cartoony approach. But again, we're going for this. And I'll even put the head on here in a minute. We'll block the head out so it looks a little bit more, even more ridiculous. This is either going to be a really awesome sculpt or a terrible one. There's no in between with this, I feel. Hey, good morning, Raytheon Studios. How you doing? Came in just in time to see some crazy anatomy mashup. And we're going to have them posing, so we're going to give them little fists. Little fists. Go bigger. Tuck in this pec here, but let's pull out parts of the pecs that make sense. Okay. Let's start getting the head on there for a second. And we're going to rename this. So we're going to rename this... Actually, what we're going to do first, we're going to go ahead and Control-Shift-D duplicate. Come up to this first tool. And we haven't even saved it. Oh my gosh. Let's do that. So let's go solo. So when you duplicate a tool, sometimes if you just want to, like, you know, get this tool, you know, to like a simple square, just open up your gizmo, center it, hit this little icon, and then hit like polycube. And then that's it. And we're going to leave that as our kind of first subtool that we can name our stuff with. And then let's go up here and let's rename it. Go to our folder, ZBrush work folder. I'm going to create a 2021 Pixos. I'm going to stick everything that we did last year there. Let me rename. And now let's call this Muscle Mouse. Really don't know. Blockout. Blockout. _01. There you go. It's a little random. Yeah, why not? Best thing to remember, guys, is everything starts out looking terrible and then it gets better. Just gotta work it. Okay. Now let's go ahead and rename this torso. Can't spell today. We'll call this thighs for now. Name. Okay. Do that for now. Now these arms are way too big for what we're going for. I'm gonna mask this area off. I'm gonna soften it a little bit. What I'm gonna do is actually just come in here and I'm gonna just turn on local sim. Gonna kind of scale that down a little bit. Move that in. Do a light smooth. Now let's get the head on there. It's important not to stay too distracted with all the details. It's really easy to do that. We're going to go ahead and insert a sphere. I'm going to put that on top. We're going to rename this as head. Now this is where the fun part comes in. Oh, it's all been fun. Let's take a look at his side profile. So it really is kind of like a round sphere with like a little bit of a nose there. But it's round on one side and it's more oval on the other. So we're going to stick with that. So let's focus on getting body shape. And based on how big he is, I'd say his head is to be somewhere around shape. Gonna widen that a bit. Go. Now let's focus on where his eyes should be. Eyes should be right about here. And on Cemetery, we're just going to kind of push where those eyes need to be. Then we're going to take our snake hook brush. B, S, and it changed for me because I added brushes. A for me. Yep. Actually, just right there. Yes. That's looking super weird. Move this down. Now, we don't really see his mouth much, so I'm not going to give it to him. Not right now. We'll give him a little. Give him a little cheeks. Give this head like a little bit of shape. So that way it still looks round, but from the side it's going to be a little bit more. What's the process? Absolutely. They call it Niju or Shino buff mice in the series. Ah, yes. Need a unique thing. Yeah, exactly. Let's get like a material that, I don't know, is that material easier to see? Yeah, probably not. I always stick with the Skin Shade 4, but I always worry you guys can't see it too. Okay. Now that we have this on there, let's go ahead and actually get the ears going. So I'm going to actually put this in a folder, call this head, and then from here we're going to insert another sphere. We're going to stick it on this side. That. Now what we're going to use is our knife curve. I'm going to go ahead and clip off that side, and I'm going to clip off this side. There you go. This gives us this topology here. I'm going to select this middle topology, flip it around, and then I'm going to hit Auto Groups. The Auto Groups will be found under Groups, Auto Groups. This way what I can do is select this, mask it off, then I can come here. Kind of smooth backside a little bit. Go. Like this one. I'm going to soften that a little bit. I'm going to put this in the center. And then I'm actually going to take the focal shift. And I'm going to move that to like 0. And when I move that out, it's going to kind of give me a more rounder effect. Move that. Now we'll go ahead and I'm going to Dynamesh this under Geometry, Modify Topology. Let's go ahead and Dynamesh it. Go. I don't want to keep groups. Smooth. Make it all one group. Fit his ear. And let's mirror and weld it. And of course, we need to turn off local sim in order to do that. DMC hover on Twitch lately, you might not be right. Yeah, I know, right? The head reminds me of Pinocchio in his first moments. Yep. Go, I'm red. Okay. Now let's work with double and kind of looking at the placement a little bit. I'm actually going to push that in just a bit. We can mask dots with mask lasso, mask pen. We're just going to mask real quick the section, invert that. And we're just going to go ahead and pull that in just a bit. Light smooth. We'll leave that there. And then what I want to do is actually clean up the groups. So we're going to go to deformation and we're going to do polish by groups. That will give me that effect. That'll be good. Be good. Now let's fix his head a little bit. And eventually we will be retopologizing it soon enough. Or rather just ZBrush. Go ahead on his nose. Let's grab a sphere, center that. And we're going to split mask on this one. So we're going to go to subtool. And then we're going to go to split. And we're going to split unmasked. So now that'll be a separate part. There we go. Get to look at it. Blockout is still very, very much a work in progress. Let's save. And save. Boom. I'm behind on my anime. What one is this from? It is from Demon Slayer. It's in the new season, so I won't spoil it, but these little cute things show up, and it is amazing. Will I create any UV maps for this? I probably won't, because it'll just be 3D printed. However, if it's something you want to see on how you can quickly create polygroups, UV unwrap, and then have texture map or UV maps created within ZBrush, I can show you that process, because I do that process a lot at work. His ears should be, if we're going to go by real anatomy, it needs to be roughly in the middle of his head. That's where most ears will lie. We'll go ahead and kind of round them a bit. Break that symmetry a bit. Or, wait a minute, no, let's point him out a little. Maybe a little bit more like that. An itchy nose, sorry. Yeah, typically in the toy industry, we don't need to create maps so much. I do stuff at work where we break up models for animation, and by doing so, I deal with UV maps that way. But typically, when you're making for toys, you don't have. How ridiculous the shoulder is. This is Boulder shoulders for days. It's such a massive thing. It's so crazy. I just love how ridiculous this is. Okay, what I like to do is I like to throw on a little bit of occlusion, which it is on. Okay, great. Just super low res right now, so not really. Okay, we don't really see much of a neck from the front, so let's go ahead and let's center this. Gonna touch that part right there. We're gonna touch the ears. And go ahead and bring that. There we go. Yes. Yes, it's looking ridiculous. I love it. Now, this is what I really love about working with Dynamesh, is that when you decide you want to break something up, it's really easy to use Dynamesh with groups to do so. What I would like to do to focus on his arms and his deltoids separately is I'm going to, even though we built this together, I'm going to go ahead and just use the mass lasso and create a new polygroup. Like that. And then I'm going to clean it up with mass pen. And I'm going to purposely pay attention to where the tricep, bicep, and deltoids actually meet. Just like such. I will keep this here. I'll have a mask that. Go. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit Control W to select a new group. Now, what's cool about this is we're going to go ahead, and I like to do this part. This is more like something I found that works for me, but you don't have to do it. Is I like to, with the Dynamesh part, I like to go to geometry, subdivide a couple times, then delete lower. Just a couple. I'm still at pretty low topology. But the reason why I like to do that is then I just like to work with denser mesh for a second. I like to then use deformation, and then I will polish by groups, which hopefully will give me just a little bit cleaner of a line here, just like such. That's actually a little funky. So what we could do is let's turn up. Ooh, what happened? That's so big. Is that so? That's crazy. Okay. Go to the light box. Smooth with a random thing, and and we like to go smooth groups. A special little brush. Don't know why that's so massive. I'm going to then smooth these groups out a little bit. I'm gonna have to check my UI, make sure it's doing all right. You can see smooth groups will smooth that group, kind of straighten that out a bit. Okay. Now what I like to do is I like to go to Geometry, Dynamesh, and now for those who don't know, in ZBrush, in the new version of ZBrush, there is a Dynamesh picker. What that will do is that will help pick the resolution that I'm currently at. So I'm going to go ahead, go to the picker. I'm just going to find a spot that gives me the most density, and this is about 744. Right there. I'm going to go ahead and turn off Dynamesh and re-Dynamesh it at that 744. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn on groups. Dynamesh with groups. Ooh, that just broke. It just broke. Back up, back up. Okay, if the mesh breaks, let's go to mesh integrity and fix mesh. And then let's try that again. There we go. If your mesh ever breaks the way you guys just saw it break, go ahead and go to mesh integrity and fix that mesh. And that will help solve that problem. But now I have his arms separate from his body. And then I can go ahead and split hidden. Their subtool, split hidden. So now I have his arms in a separate piece, and now I can just work with his arms a little bit differently, and I can clean up what we have going on here with the trim dynamic of sorts. What did I miss? I love the zombie cap in the place of the head camera rotator thing. Thanks, man. Yeah, that's one of my favorite little things. In the Discord, I dropped that off somewhere. I think under free tools. If you go to the Discord and under community free tools, I believe I dropped it. Yep, zombie cat view. So you guys can grab it right there. In fact, take this here. Can I just pin it? You just pin it. I pin it. Oh, it is pinned. Cool. So under the free tools, you can go to the pin option, and I'll tell you there it is. Boom. You guys can have it too. Fixed mesh, close holes will do the trick. Amen. Yep. What fill density are you normally using for a 3D print like this? So something like this, what I would normally do is I mean, I don't have like a go-to density. It depends on the size of the model itself. But for final, I decimate everything down, and I try to keep each subtool, each item, around 250,000 to 500,000 points max. You can probably get away with about 1,000,000 on most slicers, but I find that range, 250,000 to 500,000, works the best per subtool. And then what I like to do is I like to go under Decimation Master, and right down here at the bottom, where it says presets, you just select this 250K, or you can adjust it and say like 500 or whatever, and then hit custom, and that'll do the trick too. So for the final, that's usually where I keep it. Yeah, my main preference is to print in resin, but I do print in PLA as well. And that should work for both. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do turn off groups and rebuild this. I'm actually going to drop the resolution of this, move that down. There we go. Doesn't need to be super dense. Now we're going to go ahead and let's here this way just a little bit. Let's redefine the shape. Turn this on. Make sure that we got those lats going correctly before we do any type of Z remesher. And let's fix this guy. Now for these little problematic guys, what I like to do is just select them and delete them. So we'll go ahead and go to delete hidden. Try smoothing. And maybe some frame dynamic help clarify, and then we'll just rebuild whatever is lost. And same thing, we'll drop the resolution, turn off keep groups. We don't need super dense geometry. Now, kind of pull that up into his body. That should help. That's also going to help to keep in mind when we do some sort of prep for print. This right here could be a key. This is how you can literally just add keys here and then insert right in there. So that's a great way to. Hey, what's up, Chris? Welcome in, buddy. Okay. Right here, I want to actually, this is kind of divoting down. So let's go to brush and let's turn on backface. And let's kind of pull this up a bit. Down, redynamesh it, kind of fix that, tuck that in a little bit. Then we'll go ahead and turn off. Now let's get his little hands in there. This needs to be shorter. This is way too big. So I'm actually going to go ahead. I'm just going to use clip curve. And I'm going to clip off a little bit. Smooth this down a lot. Drop that resolution. Easier to work with. And then we're going to add in his little paw placement. So let's do it with a cylinder. And for this, we're going to go ahead and split unmask so we can work on it separate. Hey, what's up, Daniel? Welcome in. Talden! What's up, dude? Hey, Ian. What's going on? Hey, I'm new to ZBrush. Any tips for knowing all the basic things? Bima, I believe that's how you pronounce it. So the biggest tip that I have for you is you're here. This is great. You can ask any questions you want. For basic tips of knowing things, what I would recommend that you do, the first thing, is open up your brush presets and just kind of play around with each brush and kind of see what they do. I can tell you my top favorite brushes are Clay Buildup, Move Brush, Snake Hook, Damn Standard, Trim Dynamic. Those are my 5 go-to brushes. But I would say start there, use those brushes, kind of see how they respond. Just kind of mess around in here. That's the first thing. The second thing is the thing you want to remember is when you start a brand new project, when you start ZBrush, I'll save it real quick. Save as, yes, mouse, Blockout. When you start ZBrush, go ahead and switch. You're usually presented with just your tool, a little sphere, and then that's it. And so what you'd want to do, these are the steps you want to remember when you're starting a ZBrush, is whatever tool you start with, drag it out. And then what you want to do is come up to Edit or hit T on the keyboard. And then you want to hit Polymesh Make 3D, which is over here under Tool. Once you do that, you'll then have this tool. If you load the tool for the first time, and then let's say you come in here, drag in a sphere, notice here on the right-hand side of your tool menu, you have just like a handful of menus. Subtool, geometry, preview, deformation, masking, visibility, all the way down. But there's like 15 menus. But there is like almost double this as soon as you hit Make Polymesh 3D. That's because we have different functions here. You can actually initialize, you can adjust certain things with each and every one of these items. For example, let's say you wanted to have, a helix. I'm gonna go ahead and clear this out. Well, now with that helix, I can actually change, and I could change the profile and the thickness of how this helix responds. You can adjust all of this, and then when you hit Make Polymesh 3D, now it's sculptable. So see, here's the difference, what it looked like before, and now here's my new one. So you can change all of this stuff in that first menu. Then when you hit Make Polymesh 3D, now it's sculptable. So just kind of remember that when you first start up a program. But outside of that, I would say just play around. Just kind of learn everything. Don't try to like jump in and make something super crazy out the gate. That's overwhelming, especially to new users. Now, if you're coming from previous experience and you're just learning ZBrush for the first time, but you have tons of sculpting experience, then take what you know from other programs and use that knowledge with similar brushes, find similar tools within it, and then try to use it to the best that you know it and see how ZBrush handles it. So that's a good way to kind of relate if you do have that experience. Yeah, you gotta hit Edit. The T on the keyboard means you edit. When you're in it, it'll actually not ask you to take. It'll actually ask you if you want to exit it. So just say no, don't switch, or hit Escape if you're not. There's a lot of stuff. Also, too, ZBrush Classroom is huge. Definitely go on there. If you're here, ask questions, anything. There is no such thing as a bad or stupid question. All questions are welcome, so please ask them. And yeah, we'll answer as best we can. And if we don't know, you can always go to, in fact, you know what? Here's a better one too. When you go to YouTube, whatever it is you want to look for, like let's say you want to look up Dynamesh and how to Dynamesh, just type in Ask ZBrush Dynamesh, or Dynamic. We'll use Dynamic because I can't spell. Ask ZBrush is a hashtag that ZBrush has that pretty much for years, if you were to tweet at them, if you were to ask a question with using that hashtag, they'll take a look at it, and if there's not a video for it, then they would at that time create a video. I don't know if that is still going on, but they have a ton of Ask ZBrush videos. They'll answer pretty much every question about ZBrush under the sun. So that's another good one. So Ask ZBrush and then search whatever it is you're looking for on YouTube. Indeed, indeed. Yep. His hands are so tiny compared to the torso. I know, man. It's so much. Not much, just having some dessert. Nice, nice, nice. Thank you. No, not a problem. That's what we're here for. I love teaching. I love sharing this information. So if it's helpful in any way, it's always a pleasure. Okay, let's turn a local send back on. I'm gonna blow this up a little bit. Get these little scale it, but we're gonna stretch it. Little hands. Little hands. This thing's so crazy. Okay. And then now we're going to trying to imagine the line from his elbow straight down. So we want to kind of make I'm hitting all sorts of buttons today. From his elbow straight down, we want to kind of have that nice line, which we do. That looks pretty good. Scale that up. Any tips on for retopology? Oh boy, that's a conversation and a half. If I had to do one big tip for retopology, if you are doing a human, doesn't really matter. Whatever you're doing for retopology, for characters, just Google search human retopo and just study how the edge flows are. It's important to know how the flows go, so that way you can actually replicate that. Because the knowledge is already there, there's a lot of people who've posted pictures of what it looks like with different polygroups. But the second tip, which is a big one, is work in sections. If I were to retopo this character, what I would do is I would actually create some simplistic retopoing here on his torso. Then I'd move up and just retopo his shoulder, and how I want the edge loops to flow. I focus on that first. So I'll have a section floating here, a section floating here, and then I would start working on the back, and then I would start trying to connect them like a puzzle that hasn't been solved yet. It takes a lot of time, so put on some good music. Don't be afraid to fail. Retopoing is... Everybody who's retopo can tell you, in the beginning, it's very frustrating, it's very time-consuming, and very few people on the planet love it. But once you do it a few times, it's going to look messy. Just knock the first couple out. Try again. Don't get frustrated. Keep trying. Compare it to what you see through some of the other images you find of what retopo should look like. And after a while, you'll start realizing what to do, and it becomes a very repetitive process. People who are really good at retopo have done it for a million times. They've just done it a bunch. So it's just that very repetitive motion. After that, then I would say start trying to retopo simplistic characters. Try your hand without, just try your hand at it. Try different things. Try retopoing everything. That's how I learned. It's one of those things. There's no little real button. It's just more like you kind of have to do it. Yeah. Hopefully that makes sense. Lots of coffee. Yeah, absolutely. I love my coffee. Coffee's great. I'm actually one of the few that love retopo. I started my career hand modeling in 3ds Max. That's probably why. Probably. Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay. Hands. I got distracted with his pecs. Glorious pecs. Ooh. Been a while since I've heard this. That's your random fact. Let's kind of just fix the position of this crazy arm. Get that elbow. Still want those muscle landmarks. Back. back. Let's actually make a little bit of a note here. Let's actually solo this out for a second. What I'm going to do is take clay buildup and make some connection parts here. Connection points here. Joint happen. Up. Making some fun little sound effects for our triceps. Gonna end up making them a little bit more round. I just want that landmark there. Again. I'm kind of splitting the difference between a human anatomy structure and what I see on this house rat. When you do that funny shot, you should model in the stars. Oh yes, oh yes. This thing's so ridiculous, I love it. I'm gonna figure out, I think we're gonna do the classic body build pose. So we'll focus on detail when we get to that point. A little bit. Okay. So crazy. All right, let's get that tail in there. And then we'll focus on his hands a little bit more. You see, I bounce around a lot. I bounce around. But I just use simple tools. I try not to overcomplicate it. I feel like it's just, not... it's not a good idea to overcomplicate it. Just keep it simple, and I just refine, and I focus on the refine process. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's rename some of this. Let's call this tail. And the tail is going to go more up here. That up there. Assuming the tailbone is in the same position, since we have given him a human buttocks. Oop. I'm actually going to split this here. I'm going to go subtool, split hidden. I'm going to rename this just calf. And then we're going to rename this one. And then this one is going to be size tail. Let's put the tail above for hierarchy's sake. Not that it matters. Okay. So. I just realized I didn't know where the term money shot came. You're fine. Sparkle, sparkle! Let's see. All right. Tail kind of comes to a point. Gonna stretch that out a little bit. Like this guy right here. Come down. Light little smooth action. I'm actually going to subdivide a few times so I have a little bit more to work with, because it's too low for what I want to do. Then what I'm going to do is put this focal shift back at 0. I'm going to hit, so I hit W for the gizmo, then I'm going to hit Y for the transpose. I'm going to go ahead and stretch this out. Go to the center, hold Alt. I'm actually going to go ahead and bend that, which is going to give me a decent shape. I'm going to come here, same thing. kind of round it up a little bit. Or just for now, we'll have his tail looking like that. The selection here with the mask. I'm going to stick with the gizmo this time because it likes to move nice and bend well. And we'll worry about the posing itself after the... Give us some pretty decent stuff. Go. Getting there. Blockout is happening. Go ahead and take the move brush. And let's turn on back face mask. So back under brush, back face. Kind of picking that up a little. There we go. Anatomy book recommendation. Anatomy for Sculptors is always my go-to for anyone doing anatomy. It's probably one of the most broken down pieces of resources you can have. So, and not only that, but you don't even have to buy the book to start looking at it. You can just go to Anatomy for Sculptors Instagram, and they post little snippets of that book throughout their entire Instagram channel. So you can go through and kind of look how they do things. What you see in theirs is also in the book. Not a book, but take a look at Scott Eaton's Bodies and Motions. Absolutely, yeah. And then too, I mean, if you're kind of weird like me a little bit, nothing beats looking at a medical book. Now, while I don't recommend that you study how to sculpt anatomy from a medical book, what, you know, muscle chart books will do is kind of give you an understanding of the muscle. For me personally, I found that I had a hard time in the beginning looking at the anatomy and sculpting it for what it was. But as soon as I understood what that muscle did, that put it in my head that, oh, now that I understand why that's there. You know, the bicep. There's two muscles there, hence we're bi, and it pulls. You know, that whole it's designed to pull up that part. So you have your tricep, your bicep, and the way that bicep functions, actually, that resonated with me more than just, oh, that's what an arm looks like. Wonderful. So I like to dive a little bit deeper in that stuff. So if you're like that, definitely just, you know, maybe just look up some little resources on how that muscle functions. Hopefully that helps too. Thanks, Raytheon Studios. Everybody's just a little bit different. Alright, let's get these little rat paws in here. I'm gonna look up what a rat foot looks, or hand, rat. Would they be I'm gonna say rat hand anatomy. Sure, it's a foot. Oh, look how cute they are. That is adorable. They're like little human hands. That's adorable. Look at that, little long fingers. So cute. Right up in there. Oh, that's a big reference photo. Oh, okay. They're just little... Yeah, cute. Awesome. They're just really long phalanges. Ooh, that's adorable. I think in the it's hard. Every photo I have of them shows 3 little paws. So we're not going to go full real. We're not going to go full rat anatomy. We'll do 3, and then we'll add a little thumb. But we'll do 4. So we're going to do it like crazy. We're going to go and do this asymmetrically. Why not? Oop. Let's get our insert sphere here. Action. And because they're posing, like that guy flexing that, we'll just and the thing. Maybe I just want to do a fist. I just want to do a fist. Let's sculpt a fist. Okay, let's do that. Yes, like little fists. So let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to split this. Split unmasked. Yep. Touch. Let's put curve that off a little bit. That's yeah, we'll do it. Nice clang and bang. You see this little animated rats? This is what I'm sculpting, dude. It's gonna be crazy. He's gonna be so shredded. Everybody, Spice is in the house. What's up, man? Thanks for stopping by, brother. Always appreciative to have you here. You guys don't know who he is, just click on his name. He's a man who doesn't need any real introduction whatsoever. Sculpting will make you look up things you never would otherwise. For example, I looked at the anatomy of a slug. Hell yeah, dude. Absolutely. Yima, I don't know if they have a Reddit community, but they have a Discord community, and then also my community, as well as in Spicer's community as well. The Spicer's Dojo. Check them out. Huge Pixel community across the board. Always good to see you kicking some sculpting ass, bro. Hell yeah, dude. Epic digital high five. Glad to have you here, man. All right, we're gonna go ahead and make this rat fist happen. So we're gonna give it some geometry. We're gonna dynamesh it a little bit denser than what we need. Good. I'm actually gonna hit that little picker right there. There we go. Smooth it down. There we go. There we go. So they have just little in the anime show, just 3 little fingers. So we're gonna just go with the 3, not the 4. Dude, Spicer, I have to tell you real quick, man. So the gyms in my area are like stupid busy, stupid crazy. So I started getting, I got an Oculus VR, and I started doing virtual boxing for a workout. Holy crap, dude, it is awesome. It's probably like one of the best experiences. It's weird, like with the headset, but it's been fun. It's been really interesting, to say the least. Feels like I'm plugging into the Matrix just to work out. Yeah, Fit VR boxing absolutely work out. Yeah, it is, right? Oh, it's so crazy. Like, it's weird, but I love it. Oh, I have Beat Saber. Oh, Beat Saber is awesome. Bro, I'm going to do that too. As soon as I get a new house, I'm going to get that first. Heck yeah. Dude, let me know when you do. The Oculus Quest 2, awesome. You got to let me know when you get it. And when you do trim mask brush, how do you make the curve like that? Mine always goes straight. Hold on a second. When I use the trim mask, wait. Trim mask brush? I was using the mask lasso. My workout is dancing. Heck yeah, Eric. Mask lasso. Lazy mouse. Yeah, lazy mouse would work if you're using so if you're using mask pen and you're just trying to mask off that way, you could use lazy mouse for that as well. You could turn that on. It's a bit interesting, but if you really want to, yeah, lazy mouse will be really good to get a little bit more refined shape. But I use the mask lasso, which has which I don't really need lazy mouse for, but you could definitely add lazy mouse to that to get a much cleaner line that you're working for. There's clip curve. Maybe that's... Yeah, I was wondering the same thing too, Clark. Clip curve as well. So with clip curve, if you are going through and then you hit Alt once, it bends. If you double tap Alt, it actually does a straight line. So maybe that's what you're referring to. And then you can move that with the spacebar, let it go, and you can clip away. Just remember that when you use clip curve, knife brush, or any curve brush, where the shadow is, that's what's going to disappear. The shadow knows. Shadow knows what's going to disappear. Probably the only one who's going to get that reference, by the way. If you guys know the shadow, let me know. So wherever the shadow is, that's what's gonna go bye-bye. Yeah, clip curve. So yeah, so what you do is, like, let's say you want a curve, hold Control Alt, draw it out, let go of Control Alt, right? Then press Alt once, and that bends it. Now, if you press Alt twice, that makes a sharp edge. So you could do stuff like this if you wanted to. Yeah. Now, just remember that with clip curve, what clip curve does, and I'm going to turn on the mesh for this example, the polyframe. What it does is it takes that mesh and it doesn't actually cut it. It actually shoves it up into the existing mesh. It doesn't quite cut it. It just kind of shoves it. And what's cool about that is, let's say you don't want it to go super harsh like this, right? What you could do is actually, while you're holding clip curve down, you can either hit spacebar, hit spacebar first, then hit Control Shift and mess with the intensity, or at the top, if your ZBrush is defaulted like mine, is Z intensity. So while holding Control Shift, just come up here and you can scale that intensity down, and now it kind of pushes and more rounds that off. So you're not stuck with this super harsh, 100% have to cut it every time. But now if you use knife curve will actually cut it, which is why you get new topology every time you make a slice. But clip curve just kind of shoves it up on the... Yep. The radio show? Is the Oculus Quest 2 worth it in the sculpting hardware? As a sculpting hardware? Man, I want ZBrush to do VR sculpting so bad. I played around a little bit with VR sculpting. Yeah, the day Pixo does it, I'm all in. Yeah, Alec Baldwin, The Shadow. Yes, Lucas. Yes. Oh my god, yeah. Little random fact about that. In The Shadow, you have this knife that is like possessed. In The Golden Child, the movie with Eddie Murphy, it's the same knife. Two different movies, no correlation, the same prop knife, the same main like dagger that they use. It's awesome. Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, the knife tool tends to crash ZBrush. Save before every cut. Yeah, if you're cutting complex, for sure, save before every cut. I have personally had ZBrush crash on a knife curve. So yeah, do be careful. Absolutely. But actually, since I updated to 0.0.2, I haven't had too many issues. So hopefully it was just something that kind of got worked out. Yep, it can use Z intensity. Not only can it use Z intensity, but since we're on the topic, here's let's go back to clip curve for a second. And this goes with any of these curve brushes up here. If you're holding down clip curve and you hit the spacebar, you get this polygroup and B radius. Now what this does, actually it's really cool to show with show with knife curve. But what's really cool about this is it gives the brush something different. So let's go ahead and save. So if we wanted to make some fun shapes, right? You have your knife curve and boom, you're slicing and dicing and life is good. But let's say we want to make some more interesting shapes. Maybe we want to cut out a section in the middle and we don't actually want to cut like this. What we could do is by holding Control Shift, we can hit the space bar and hit B radius. What B radius will do is it'll use the brush size to establish how much of it that you want to remove. So now, if I cut through, it has this effect where it cuts me more like a disc. But if I don't want that, I come through and I hold Alt. Now it cuts that section out, and that section that's removed is brush size dependent. If I come through here holding Alt, notice my brush size, and that's actually the focal length size. So if I change my focal length, so it responds much. Boom. You can get different slice cuts. What's cool about that is if we can do some weird designs like this, where we come through, we stop here holding Alt, and now we can stop at that section, cut from here to here, and create these really intricate shapes very quickly without breaking a sweat. And you can see here that it creates new polygroups on the fly, so that you can quickly select that section and say, oh, that's the piece I want, and you can go with it. So really fun stuff. So you could do that with clip curve. You could do that. I mean, so, you know, anytime you have this brush, just hit spacebar, turn on B radius. It gives you a completely different reaction every time. It's really fun. And then just turn it off with B radius. Same with polygroup. You have that turned on. It gives you a different response with the two connected. Yeah, no problem. I want the knife! Yeah. How many softwares I'm comfortable with? I'm comfortable with a lot of different softwares. But since this is a ZBrush live stream dedicated, I always like to try to keep it as dedicated to ZBrush as possible. Did I go to an art school or was I self-taught? That's a great question. A bit of both. So as I sculpt the rest of this hand, I'll kind of fill you in. I was self-taught for the first 3 years of me sculpting. But after a while, I started noticing that there were things I just couldn't do on my own. I felt like I was missing something. Just some things were not clicking. So what I ended up doing was I ended up joining the 3D Character Workshop. And I actually joined the 3D Character Workshop at the very start of the pandemic, right when I was getting ready to freelance full-time. Then the world shut down. So there you go. So, which kind of actually forced that, which worked out fine. So I started freelancing while I was taking the 3D Character Workshop. Because my portfolio at that time, I think, was okay. It was pretty decent, but it wasn't like, you know, anything to really write home about. So I was fine with it. So then Shane Olson in his course really helped push me to that next level. But I had that drive there from self-learning. I continued to look on YouTube and find other videos and little tidbits that would make life interesting and fun and exciting. And then after Shane's course, I took Spicer's course, which, guys, if you want to learn anatomy, what to do, this is what you do. Spicer's anatomy is insane. Not just saying that either because he's here, but honestly, Spicer's anatomy is sick. I needed to kind of up my anatomy game. So I decided to take his course there, and that helped me as well. And yeah, in that time, I started streaming for Pixo and working for Funko, and life is good. So yeah, a bit of self-taught, very much in the beginning, but I did not go to a university or college. My highest education level, as far as like what the U.S. government would consider education, would be just high school. Let's see. To be specific, the knife loop That's still crashing half the time after the update. Oh yeah, I don't even use the knife loop, to be honest. I don't know why. I don't. I just don't use it. You went to art school, nice, but that's when ZBrush was still pretty young in the industry. So I never had any classes in ZBrush and learned it on my own. Classes on it sounds like it'd be very helpful with some of the more intermediate and expert aspects of the program. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're, and the beauty part about, like, if you were to take somebody like Shane Olson's course, he dedicates more to stylization of characters, more towards what you would see at, like, Disney Pixar. Whereas if you were to take Spicer's course, you would get more realism and comic book feel from their styles. So what's really neat, too, is when you decide to do, like, an online course like those, it kind of helps you to refine the style that you're looking at. Because a lot of times we develop our own unique way of sculpting, but I find that it's really important to know how to do both stylization and realism. That's where my style comes from. It kind of meets in the middle. But when I'm working at Funko, they're like, hey, we need this. It's very stylized, it's very purposeful. So that approach is slightly different than what I would do for full realism. So having both kind of helps you uh, really understand and create a more unique and custom style to yourself, which is awesome. And really, like, I think the best part about the both of their schools is that it come with a really awesome community. So you're now connecting with people. So the art in itself is even more so. And that's also what I thrived off of, is just the ability to get feedback, get direction, and then be able to share my work with other artists and have artists share their work with me. And then that back and forth just lend to even more knowledge. Whereas if you're doing it by yourself, I find that you find yourself in a bit of a cave. And while some people do really, really well with that, for me, I did that, but it only took me to like this one point. It took me to this one level, and I couldn't get past it. But having that back and forth really like lend itself to just helping me improve overall. That's the vibe we got going in my Discord. Random awesome subway segue. Which is right there. So, yeah. But it's fun. It's super awesome. Okay. Get that let's get that fist in there. So now we're gonna go ahead and draw out some spots for some meat. A little hand butt. Nice, man. I'm glad. Yeah, we're all artists here. We're all trying to have a good time. That's what I love about it. Little palms in here. So yeah. No, I find it super awesome. So yeah, hopefully it's helpful. But, especially if you guys are new to it, if you guys are new to just, sculpting in general or art in general, just, don't be afraid to share your work, get with a really fun community that helps you grow, helps you succeed, and be surprised how far you can go. It's awesome. Okay, we can pull a regular smooth brush now. Yep. Because I realized I still had smooth groups turned on, and though that's not going to be helpful for. Okay. So we're still in the Valley of the Suck right now, and that is okay. The best part about art, in my opinion, is just being able to just get something out there on paper and then refine it more and more. You always want to start very loose. You want to be able to pivot and check stuff. So, and I'm starting with a relatively closed fist. So we're going to be really refining this more and more. Don't mind how terrible it currently looks. Okay. get a thumb on there. Ish. So we're going to go ahead and grab BIT for the primitive, and we're going to draw out another sphere. And we're going to keep working on getting this thing done right. And this will be the start, so we're that right over. So I am making this really interesting. I believe they're called. Oh, what did we call them? Hold on. Ninju muscle mice from Demon Slayer. These guys are like crazy buff dude mice. I love them. They're ridiculous. So welcome in. Hopefully there's a little animated GIF going above that kind of gives you an idea of how they move and are. They're funky in every way possible. So we're combining rat anatomy and human anatomy, and we're hoping for the best. It'll take me a couple streams to finish this piece, but you know, it is what it is. That's nice. Thanks, man. I agree. Personally, I find stylized work even harder than more high-res noise detailed stuff. Even though it looks simpler, it's way more tricky to walk the line of visual appeal. Yeah, you know, the thing is, and this is my opinion, but it's helped me out a lot in my career, is at the end of the day, stylization is just realistic anatomy simplified. But what makes it so hard is that if you don't understand the anatomy enough, then the stylization of the work, it will actually cause, it will showcase what you don't know about anatomy. So if you, if you're unfamiliar with how things should connect, when you simplify it down, yeah, it ends up being really, really hard. And too, a lot of stylized work has a lot of really nice, sharp, clean transition plane changes between one point to another, making it look super nice and have amazing flow to the piece while giving you a ton of detail, but not really. Like it's a very fine balance. So I find that the more I study realistic anatomy, not necessarily sculpting it, just studying it, I then keep those plane changes and those anatomy points in my head. So when I sculpt stylization, like right now on this little rat paw that we're making, I understand that on my hand there's a big muscle here, the meat of the hand that connects to the thumb joint, and how that's angled, that the thumb is at a 90 degree, like if your thumb's like this, your thumb here's like 90 degrees from your fingers, right? So having that knowledge helps me in my stylization work as well. So yeah, the more I studied anatomy, realistic anatomy, the better I got at actually having stylization work come through. That's my little take on it. I see that, in my opinion, yeah, I see that most really good stylized work has a lot of realistic studies in the background. So, just that's me. That's me. Okay, let's go over here. I want to click right there. Gonna control drag that out. Gonna push this out. Oh, that's the other thing. I want to turn that focal shift back down. Whee! See, and I like to make a sharp thing character like Mr. Incredible. What I mean is I use sharp edges for 3D. How can I achieve that sharp edge? What I like to do is use the damn standard to create the sharp point. I can show you that here in a second. And then after you create that sharp point, you can use pinch to then accentuate that sharp point, making a really nice clean transition on that sharp edge. The other thing I would recommend that you do is have subdivisions. Stylized work like Mr. Incredible, for example, wow, can't words. the work like Disney-esque Pixar stylization looks the best in subdivision, and keeping those subdivisions as low as possible while still looking good is the balance. So I find that you want to, start with a really nice, clean geometry as best you can and then subdivide slowly to get that line. Yes. Ben's Vita? Hopefully I didn't butcher that. Yes. Let's see here. Yeah, usually when you check some dope stylist and see the profile of the author, usually he's done some really good realistic sculpting before. Absolutely, yep. It just doesn't hurt, It keeps things. It also, I don't know. In my opinion, it also kind of helps. Just more knowledge you have, the more tools you have in your arsenal. Just helps. Especially when you're attempting to make really crazy muscle-bound mice. The thing to remember, going back to that pinching question, for example, the thing to remember too is that when you pinch or use the pinch brush, it's going to try to gather the edge loops as best as they can. So let's say, for example, I want to make this have kind of a sharp line to it. If I were to subdivide this a little bit and then use the damn standard, I'm going to hold Alt to kind of create a more positive cut because damn standard's defaulted to sculpting negatively. And so I'll hold positive and kind of do that nice little bit up there. And then I'll use the pinch brush. What this will do is, as you pinch, it's going to gather those edge loops to one edge loop. So this is why it's important to have really nice, clean geometry when starting that, because it's going to take those edge loops, it's going to focus it to one edge loop, and the rest are going to be pulled to that edge loop, giving you a nice, sharp crease edge. So just something to keep in mind when attempting that. Now I'm going to come here and hit auto groups real quick. So polygroups, auto groups. So I can... This, I'm also looking at my fist. And we're going to end up Z-remeshing this and refining it a little bit more. And he's going to tiny little paws, little tiny little things. I'm going to bend it just so it looks a little bit better for now. Again, we're still very much in the blockout phase, but we're getting close to being wrapped up on the blockout phase, and we can start remeshing things kind of getting things put together. You guys are ridiculous. Let's see here. What are you doing? The muscular rise in the corner? Yep, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, the subtlety of it makes it tricky. It's easier to hide stuff in resolution. Yeah, what's interesting with a trained eye, especially with high-res stuff, yeah, you could, when you see the overall project, it looks kind of good, but when you start zooming in, things can kind of fall apart too, even in high res. But yeah, the tendency to hide things is always forever tempting. I could see you as an animator or something in the ballpark. Oh, actually, it's funny. I wanted to do animation when I was a kid, but definitely I moved away from that for some reason. I honestly don't remember. I used to draw a lot in middle school and high school. Took animation for 4 years straight, and then nothing came of it. I did nothing with it. Study architecture, and yes, making simple, clean architecture is harder than fancier building. Nice. I didn't know that. Basically, I need to put all the needs in simple building. Yeah, no, not a problem. Okay. Now let's start. Let's get these eyeballs here. Let's start getting a little bit more what we need. Okay. Spheres. We're gonna go ahead and do some spheres. Actually, there's some really cool spheres. Sphere 32. Neat about Sphere 32 is look at the polygroups. I like to use these as where the pupils would be. I'm gonna kind of flatten these down a little, push these in, and we'll work around. It's so crazy. I don't even know. This guy makes me laugh. All right, split, and we're gonna split unmasked points. Yep. Now I'm gonna scale those eyes down a little bit. And we're gonna lower them down a little bit. Now we're gonna fix the proportions in his face. We're gonna add in some would-be eyebrows. Eyebrow bones. A little bit more, a slight scale difference. Down just a little bit more. Give a little bit of a shape here. I'm just gonna kind of come through here. What I'm really focused on is just kind of keeping that shape alive, but giving that some little bit of an anatomy structure to it. Keeping it overly simple, but yet at the same time making sure that it's working correctly. Come in here like this. Now let's go ahead and add the actual head bandana, and I'm just going to put a placeholder in there. So we're going to insert a cylinder 3D. I'm going to scale this down. Now here's a little trick I like to do. I'm going to go to geometry. I'm going to go to edge loop and delete loops. So that takes all the loops that are here on a simple sphere. Delete loops. It removes all the loops that don't need to be there. Just the loops that actually keep the structure and shape of it. And nothing going. Turn on symmetry. Use our move brush and start pulling this stuff out. I'm actually going to mask this section here and pull it. Let's actually soften that. Yep. Now what I want to do as well is I'm going to take the Z modeler brush. I'm going to hover over an edge. I'm going to turn, actually going to keep that. Yeah, we'll keep, just going to do some supporting edge loops on each side so that when we hit D for dynamic subdivision, when we subdivide it, that roundness will always be there. Actually do a little bit of a looser, something like here. Let's actually go more like this. There we go. A little bit softer. Scale this down. Yep. Let's see. Are they rice or are they rice? Are they rats or mice? I have no idea. Such tiny hands. I love it. Nice. I have no idea what they are. Maya, when you start modeling a character for printing, are you modeling based on the separate parts that you'll have at the end, or do you cut? I cut at the end. I do kind of keep some things in mind on what makes sense at the time. Like earlier, I broke apart the arms in a way that I could plug them in. I still sculpt very much in T-pose and then I pose, unless I absolutely just want to start from A pose. But for the most part, I'll still sculpt in T-pose and then I'll focus on the pose. The things I keep in mind are intersections where like belts are, where I look for things that would make cutting easier, and I try to keep those in mind as I'm sculpting, which over time just comes from practice of cutting stuff up. But I would say don't worry about it in the beginning process. Make your character, make it as awesome as you can, because you'll pivot at some point or things aren't working, you have to change. If you adhere to I have to cut it this way, it may not work, and you might spend more time struggling rather than just sculpting, enjoying the process, and then breaking it up afterward. They are mice. It's because of what I said now. Okay. I'm gonna kind of tuck his ear in a little bit up there. Go. Maybe pull that in a little bit. Or where we can kind of focus in on that head shape a little bit. They're mice. Call them Shino buff rice. Buff mice. Why do I keep saying rice? Oh my gosh. Don't listen to me. Okay. Now, let's actually create the shape that we need for that headpiece. And what we're going to do, I'm going to turn this on the side because that's how I draw my lines a little bit better. I'm actually going to hold control, come on up here, and we're going to use a tool, mesh project. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to go ahead and turn off symmetry for this. And I'm going to draw out the shape that I want relatively. About that side. Okay, that's pretty massive. I'm going to back that up. I'm going to hold control. Intensity is at 100, so let's drop intensity down to like 50. Yeah, that's better. Great. And now we're just going to go ahead and draw this here. I'm going to go ahead and mirror and weld that. Actually going to use move infinite with symmetry turned back on. Move this shape a little bit so I get what I want. Now, one thing you do want to keep in mind when you are doing stuff for 3D printing, let's go back to regular move brush, is that the things that you know are going to be welded together, you want to keep those intersecting correctly. So right here, if I know that I'm going to be having this head bandana piece attached to his head as a whole, then what I will ultimately do is just make sure that they intersect well, like they are here, so that when I make it one solid piece and get it ready for 3D printing, that piece will, of course, be merged correctly and there will be no internal holes, which can happen a lot. However, that being said, if you know you're going to make a cut spot there, then make it an independent piece until you know for sure what you want. And let's go ahead and go subtool, and we're going to split hidden on that. Now here, we're going to make the shape. So remember I was talking about pinching earlier? I want to see if maybe, just maybe, we'll take the pinch brush. I'm going to kind of pinch that spot. And that's not actually working out. Didn't work out as I want. That's okay though. We'll work with that for now. We'll fix that later. We can always make a better one later. Ideally, we're just trying to block out, keep everything looking nice. So I tell myself that a lot, especially if you're new to sculpting, if you're trying really hard to like get your ideas out. Just every time you find yourself falling into details, you know, walk away from it until you're absolutely ready to commit to detail. Here we'll just have a basic shape there. Perfect. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to merge his thighs and his torso together and clean this anatomy part up here because it is ridiculous at this point. We need to get that looking nice. So let's move his thighs up to his torso. Let's save it. So what I do is I save a 01. Now when I'm going to start merging stuff together, I'm going to go and rename this 02. And that will give me a little bit better. January is now Rise Month. Exactly, right? Yeah, they're from Demon Slayer, yeah. The little mice that are moving and posing the way they are, it's, yeah. I want to talk about it, but I don't want to spoil it, because I know there are people here who have not seen it yet, so we won't spoil it. But if you're into Demon Slayer, go to the new season on Funimation, Crunchyroll. It might even be on Hulu at this point, and go check it out. Or just Google quickly Demon Slayer muscle mice. That's all you have to type, muscle mice. Demon Slayer muscle mice. So that should be more than enough. Okay, let's go ahead and merge this down. So we're gonna go merge down. It's also 7:22, guys. So I go until 8. Just wanted to let you know. Then I like to eat dinner. But this has been amazingly fun. So hopefully you guys are having as much fun as I am. Please don't. I don't watch a lot of TV shows. That's a jacked mouse. What's up, A-Cube? Your name is so purple against the blue background. It's hard to read. Yeah, what's happening? It's an Ash. How are you doing? Everybody, A-Cube is an amazing, talented artist, and she's also a Pixo streamer. So click her name. If she says, please, you don't have to, do it anyway. Click it. Click it, because her artwork is phenomenal. And she's a streamer here. Every Wednesday. Well, Wednesdays. Yep. You have a blue background? Oh, restream. Gotcha. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, let's go here. And we're going to go back to geometry. We're going to turn off keep groups. Again, I'm going to use this picker here, which is a new feature. I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to find a resolution that makes sense. And then we'll go ahead and Dynamesh that together. Now merging it together, and now we're going to fix the anatomy and clean that up. This whole bottom section from his belly button down is covered in fur. So I'm not going to be focused on finalizing the anatomy here because we don't need to. It's just going to be covered in fur. So, but having the shape correct is super important. And also, we're going to use SK ZBrush, and we're going to start cleaning this up. There we go. That booty happening. Get all that good stuff right in there. Oop. Translates to all aspects of art. Yeah, in my opinion. From life drawing to sculpting and animation, even to music. Heck yeah. Oh, not my spot? Oh no, not my spot. Going straight. He needs to have a super strong. We're gonna bring that down in there. That his tail. There we go. I'm actually going to change polygroup by Control W, make it all one polygroup. Start smoothing this down. The shift can be dropped a little bit. Now I'm just kind of smoothing and using the clay fill to get that in there. Actually use clay buildup for a second. You can stream with sculpting model Daki Upper Moon. I don't know if I know that one. Not off the top of my head, at least. Okay. We will get, like... Let's figure out where hip bone should be. Really hard with getting that rat leg human anatomy in there. There we go. Will this live be uploaded afterwards? I missed too much. Yes, it will. Absolutely. Every time we go live here on Pixo, after we end it, it should post directly to the YouTube channel immediately. On the Twitch side, I'm not too sure. I don't think so. But yeah, if you're on the YouTube side, just pop over to Pixologic, and it'll be there within a few minutes after I end it, so you can go back for sure. I think on YouTube as well, you can scrub back from your current position, but yeah, if you don't want to miss the live, then just wait until it's over. Okay. Got a good chunk of that blocked out. Get the stones on his head a little bit. I think for now, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to do something very similar, where we're going to use the mesh project. Ah, yes, it does. Good. That answered my question. I was making sure that it was symmetrical. What I want to do. I make some stone placeholders. Like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off symmetry. I'm going to control drag over here. I'm going to scale that down. I'm going to flip this over. Place this here like such. Like meow. Then I'm going to go ahead and do a polygroup auto group. Alright, grab that. And we're going to go ahead and split hidden. Let's do subtool split hidden. And from here, I'm actually going to dynamesh this together. Ooh, that's low. That's very low. There we go. And then I'm going to mirror and weld it with local symmetry turned off. There we go. Get some stones in there rather quickly. Now I'm going to start adding color just so that I can start seeing what's going on, because right now we have just like this buff mouse that's just lacking some simplistic stuff. So what we're going to do is lose my voice. Take some water. So if you just look up Iris Sculpts, that's my personal YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. Just type in Iris Sculpts, all one word, and you'll find me everywhere. But if you don't want to do that, just go ahead and there is my link tree, where you can see all the good glory stuff I have, including my art station. Becky is a character in Demon Slayer. Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were when you said Daiki Upper Moon. I was thinking of like a whole new anime. Ian, are you using Sub D? No, I haven't used Sub D. We're still in Dynamesh mostly. I'm going to show you what I do here in a minute on how to take something and make it, drop it down from subdivision to a subdivision model that will present a really clean mesh, or as clean as possible using ZBrush. We're going to do that here in a second. What's your opinion about speed sculpts? I've started doing it, but stopped because I felt like I was rushing even my normal sculpts. Not sure how to avoid that. That's a great question. And my opinion on speed sculpts is this. It is good to do a speed sculpt for warm-up, but they're not meant to replace your workflow. What you want to do with speed sculpts is practice things that you need work on. So like, you want to sculpt a head, right? So block out a head. Give yourself an hour time limit. black out ahead and see how far you get. Once you've done that, do that for like a week every day. Spend an hour, block out ahead. You'll find yourself slowly improving upon that head sculpt, and you'll find that your speed will improve. But if you just are like, I'm gonna do a thing in 3 hours, and you're just like trying to mash stuff together, it's not really gonna help you. So I think what you should do is do speed sculpts with purpose. Now every once in a while for fun, like the ZBrush Summit, or just like you're just like, I want to sculpt this idea out real quickly, and you can care less about how it turns out. You just want to get something out. Like maybe you have an idea and you want to concept something. Then speed sculpts work for that because you can sculpt very quickly. A-Cube is really good at that. She's still in here. She's really good at that. I love watching her streams because she gets her ideas out so fast and she just concepts through. And then the refinement process happens. So it's good to practice with speed sculpts because if you do it right, it can help you with certain aspects that you need to work on. But if you depend on it and you start changing your workflow to speed sculpts, then you can start getting messy, or you could start finding out that you're missing some crucial points, especially if you're working for a client or if you're doing it as a job, or even still you're trying to build a portfolio and you start relying on speed sculpts to be your final piece. It needs that refinement process, and speed happens over time. So the more you practice something, the faster you'll get naturally. So, you know, if it takes you 6 hours to get where I'm at today, there's nothing wrong with that. If it takes you an hour to get where I'm at today, nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, it's about quality, not quantity. So if you're going to do speed sculpts, like I said, to kind of repeat, just do it with the idea of trying to improve upon one thing, and do that a few times. I also recommend beginners not to watch speed sculpts because I feel like speed sculpts kind of, you know, you feel like there's a disconnect between how long something can actually take. The more you're experienced, I mean, if you're just watching it for motivation, there's nothing wrong with that, of course. But if you're watching speed sculpts and you're trying to learn from it, but you're not quite experienced in it yet, it can be a little confusing. So there's pros and cons to everything. You know, there are pros. Some of the cons, of course, could be that, you know, just too fast, or you're not, you know what I mean? I'm just gonna repeat myself. I don't want to do that. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I've answered the question. But yeah, I like to do them from time to time, but I definitely don't rely on them. Just no need to. That was really helpful. Thank you. I will try and add speed sculpts here with purpose. Yes, absolutely. Cool, man. Not a problem. Okay. Start tucking in this muscle here. Right. Okay. I said I was going to color and see I got distracted. Okay. So let me show you how I would break this model up in order to get some pretty decent topology. So let's go ahead and save it. All right. So what I like to do is I like to first divide with polygroups. So what I will do is I will come in here and I'll mask off certain sections. So we're going to do mask by lasso. And come in here. I'm going to mask this section off here. Now I'm going to take the mask pen, kind of clean up this area. I have lazy mouse turned on. Really random hiccup. I also like to try to mask off with the way I understand how the muscles are working in that area. I find it to be pretty helpful. We're not splitting apart, we're just creating edge flow to work with the shape of the model. I've also showcased another way where I use polygroup it, but this way will work as well and is a little bit more time consuming, but not super complicated. And this works with a denser mesh. So if you're dynameshed, you know, I'm just like at 200,000. Not super dense, but it should work. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control W and get a really contrasty polygroup. Now I'm going to select this guy. And I'm going to mask the shoulder area. And a lot of the reason why I do this the way I'm doing it is because after studying retopology, I realized that some of the way the edge flow was, really was beneficial to keeping a really nice clean shape. So I will mask off areas and keep those shapes in mind. Have something like that. Then that's yellow and green. That's not contrasty enough. So I will isolate those and create something like that, like an orange. And then just for the sake of the body here, I'm going to go ahead and mask off this torso area following the rib cage, like such. Maybe get the lower back in there. Up. Yeah, just like that. And then I will Control W that. So now I have all of this right here. You can do the same thing with the neck. You can make this as complicated as you want, or rather as clean as you want. We'll do the neck as well. Why not? There we go. So now all of our polygroups are very much they contrast each other. They have they're clear. None of the polygroups are close to the same color. When you do this, you want to make sure that they aren't the same hue or like slightly different hue. Like that yellow and green, sometimes ZBrush gets confused between the two. So it's something to kind of keep in mind. What we'll do is we'll clean up these edge loops here. So we'll go to deformation and we'll polish by groups. I'm going to do this a couple times. There we go. And I'm even going to take the move brush and try my best to kind of straighten some of this out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to Geometry, Crease, and Crease by Polygroups, or I like to call it by Polygabries, because... And now with the crease and the polygroups selected, we're going to tell ZRemesher. First thing first, we're actually going to come up here in the timeline. We're going to go Control Tap just to mark... going to mark our history point. And now what we're going to do... Why is that? Let's actually back that up for a second. Mark that spot. Okay. I'm also going to mirror and weld this just to make sure that it's truly symmetrical, which it was slightly off. Now I'm going to turn off symmetry on this one. And what we're going to do... Actually, no, we can leave symmetry. That's fine. Sorry, I ramble a lot. Okay, so with our polygroup selected and our polygroups creased, what we're going to do is go to ZRemesher, and we're going to turn on Keep Groups, and we're going to turn on Keep Creases. This part's important because we're going to be using the polygroups and the creasing function as a wall to get better, cleaner topology as quickly as possible. Yeah, Charlie. Booty! So now that we have that, we're going to pick a target polygroup that is slightly higher than what you want. Because what I find with ZRemesher is when you do the first ZRemesh, it gets you pretty close, but there's always something that's just slightly wrong with the mesh. Maybe it put a pole somewhere you didn't want to have. So what I do is I usually pick something like 20 to 25, and I'll leave it there. And then what I'll do is I'll go up and hit ZRemesh, and we're gonna watch it. Now again, I Control tapped on my timeline so that I can project history, any of the details that I would like to keep. Because when you ZRemesh, the mesh gets softer and it shrinks a little bit. So even though I don't want this detail as my final detail, I do want them there to refine it. So, and to keep my initial shape. So we're gonna go ahead and hit ZRemesh. And this might take a second, because it does. All right, there we go. So you can see here we have a couple random poles, and this mesh, not too bad. Some really funky stretching down here and some poles. but overall it retained the shape as best as it could. Now what I like to do is I like to then go down here where it says target polygroups, and I like to now click half. So that's going to take the 20 polygroup setting that we set it at, which is actually like 20,000, and now we're going to say, all right, I want you to do the same function but now cut it in half, and we're going to get a lower topology rating. So we'll do the same thing, turn half, and then hit ZBrush. And now here, noticing that the mesh here is still stretching a little bit. It's very condensed up in this area. But if we look around, it's holding our shapes pretty well. But I want this just a little lower. We're at 16,000. That's pretty low. Let's try one more time. Let's ZBrush half, just to see what we get. Okay. And that's actually pretty nice. That's 6,000. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let's go back up to crease and uncrease all. I'm going to now subdivide a couple times. 1, 2, 3. As just a rule of thumb, I don't know. Subdivision level 4 sounds fine. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to subtool. We're going to go to project. And then we're going to go to project history. And that project history, I'm going to take that information and put it on my new subdivided model. Now, this isn't animation ready in any way, shape, or form, but this is a way to get some pretty clean topology to then work with. And now we can subdivide down and pop back on up. And we have a pretty decent mesh that we can work with. Now, you can make that as complex as you want. The more polygroups you give it, the more information it has to work off of, which will totally work out and give you some edge flow the way you would like it to be. But from here, this is going to be pretty decent. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drop my subdivision to like level 2. Now let's, drop it to 2, delete higher. And now I'm going to work with subdivision level 2 and kind of work with that. And that should give me some pretty nice. Now, let's say we were finished with this. Somebody earlier today asked about like, hey, how can I get UV maps on that? So what you could do is once you have a subdivided model, and just for the sake of fun, we're just going to go ahead and just paint real quick. We're going to paint red. Actually paint the mouse color real quick. Let's go to Z plugin. Let's go to Z color. Z color, what Z color does, if you don't know, is it allows you to click on a square and then sample any color on your desktop on any monitor. And so we're going to pick this gray color, hit set, and now this is the color of the mouse. I'm going to go ahead and go up to color and fill object. And now just to kind of demonstrate the UV map thing, what we're going to do is I'm going to paint with like some yellow, something really pretty, like that. Now what you could do is when you have a subdivided model, you go to the lowest subdivision. So if we have 2, just drop down to your lowest subdivision, go to Z plugin, and then we're going to go UV master. With your polygroups, turn off symmetry, turn on polygroups, say unwrap. It's going to unwrap for you. Or what you could do is go to Z plugin and go to work on clone, which will kick another subtool off on the side at the lowest subdivision level. Either way works. From there, we now have UV maps. You can see because Morph UV is active. If we were to Control Z for a second, wait. Yeah, if we were to Control Z for a second, you can see Morph UV is off, but now you can see that Morph UV is on. That's how you can tell if you have UVs. You can even take bump and just say Morph UV, and here are our UVs. They're okay, not too bad. But for what we're attempting, this will be fine. Click Morph UV again, that'll show you it's rebuilt. What's really cool about this, by using Morph UV, is let's say we wanted to paint on just the top part of his torso, okay? What's really cool about this is if you were to turn this bump down to 0 and hit Morph UV, it'll give you a really flat really flat image of your UV, and you can actually isolate, and then you can, if we come here and say select rec, you can isolate and work on just those individuals as much as possible. You can mask everything else off, and then you can paint just solely on that one. And then when you're done, you can morph UV it back. So that's the benefit of having UVs, even if you're working in toys. And then if you wanted a texture map, go to the highest subdivided level, and then from there, create from PolyPaint. Now you have a texture map that's turned on. And you could test it by trying to paint and then turn that map off. All that good stuff. Turned on. My map is active. And then from there, you'll see it under texture by going to clone texture. And now it's up here in your texture map. So that's how you can get UVs and unwrap it, all that good stuff. Nice Blockout, I love ZBrush. How can I improve my eye to make character face realistic with a ZBrush camera? So if you're trying to match for any type of realistic comparison, the best thing you could do is try to see if you can find out the focal lens that was used for that camera. A lot of headshot photography, if you have, like, let's say Robert Downey Jr.'s headshot, a lot of headshots and work at anywhere between 85mm to 200mm, which I know is a huge range. But what you can do to get an idea as you're sculpting is when you turn on perspective, you can bring in your photo for reference by bringing it in as a texture by going to texture import, and then from there find your texture and import it. And once you have that texture, let's say this is our texture, you can then come here and select that texture and then hit plus. Now kind of drag in that texture. Once you have the photo texture there, then what you can do is turn on perspective with the model that you have, and then go to draw, and then right here under draw, under this little camera spot, you have these different numbers. These are your focal length. So you can either select 85, it's defaulted at 50, but it's at 80, try 85, or use this focal length measurement and try to find a focal length that best matches what you're seeing in the photo. I don't know of any real way to get the exact focal length, but if you know a little bit about photography, the most common lenses, 85, 200mm is a really good one. There's like a 35mm to 105 lens. Depending on what it is, you can kind of get an idea of what those focal lengths do to the face, and then from there, make your best guess as best you can. But that's how you would adjust the focal length in the perspective turned on. So we can have 85, you can, and of course, the larger the number of focal length, the more condensed that's going to look. So it's going to look more flat. Where, like, if I had 24, if you see what happens to, let's actually load up here real quick Chun-Li's face. Okay, so if we look at Chun-Li's face real quick with perspective turned on. Oop. So if you adjust the focal length, look at 85mm, now look at 24mm. See the difference? Here's 24, right? And now let's take a look. You see how much more bubbly and like fish-eyed it is? Then when you hit 85, look how more condensed that looks in comparison. It's trying to fit it all in. Hopefully that's a good enough example, but you know what I mean? Like, that's what you're figuring out. So usually, like I said, you'll start between 85mm and kind of work your way up to adjust for like a headshot when you're doing something like that. Here, since we've used this piece enough, showcased it a lot. Do some random, stick it in a corner for the last 10 minutes, like that. Control Shift, boom. Let's go back to our mouse. Whee! Okay. I'm gonna back this up. Okay, cool. Go ahead and this guy, and I'm gonna go color. Perfect. Not a problem. Glad that could be helpful. Okay. Now let's go ahead and let's get the color. Let's get some color on him, and then we'll wrap it up. Pardon me. Okay, so let's go to color. Let's just go fill object. Color, object. Actually gonna dock this over here on the side. Gonna go white for his eyes. Fill object. For his nose. A little black little nose. Actually, it's a little bit, it's not true black. It's a little like darker gray. So let's go like that. Then let's go up here to his ears. Keep wanting to do that. All right, and then from there, what we're gonna do is let's go back to Z color. And we're gonna sample now this kind of bluish purple color. Grab this guy right here. There. Little paws. Little blockout paws right now. Little feet. Right here, we're actually gonna switch, go back to this gray. Now, what I'm gonna do just for fun is just so we have something to work off of, I'm actually going to just quickly paint this lower section. This lower half of his is the same color. That's what's going to be fur. We'll get to his fur next stream. Maybe we'll create like a little fur brush. But there are tons of fur brushes out there, so whatever works for everyone. Probably play with making a fur brush this week and then just showcase what I did. In the meantime, we'll just get that color there. Color is just as important as the shape itself. Go back to Z plugin. I usually keep this off stream, but we're going to grab that pink now. Gonna isolate. Remember earlier, I actually polygrouped that. Gonna get that there, fill that color. So now we have that there. So it's all just slowly coming together. Grab this kind of color right here. Grab this guy. Let's go fill object. And then now here, we're gonna kind of go a little different than what's in the concept. It's the same color as the skin tone. So we'll actually go with like kind of a bluish hue to kind of show the difference a bit, just so it looks slightly different. We can always change that later. Yep. Okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and... Oh, I was painting. I thought I was moving. There we go. This big, crazy, anime, funky arm. There we go. That elbow in there. So, getting ready to call it in for the stream. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed yourselves. I've had a lot of fun blocking this guy out. He's ridiculous and cute and weird, and I love all of it. Okay. There we go. Now for fun, what we're going to do on these eyes here, this is what I love about these eyes, are these spheres to use as eyes, is not only is there a pole pointing in the direction that they want to be in, but if you use select lasso, what we can do is actually hold an edge, zoom in here, hold Control Shift, find that edge, and separate that. And then we're going to go to polygroups, auto groups, right? And then we're going to select the inside groups, make that one group, make that a second group so that they're different. And actually, real quick, I'm going to separate that and those guys. Make that a different group like that. There we go. Now I'm going to take this group here, and what I'm going to do is actually just fill this with black. With RGB filled in. Okay. Let's actually lose one edge loop here. There we go. Actually lose two edge loops. There we go. What? Yeah, that should be fine. We're gonna grab this, fill that color. There we go. There we go. So you can get some temporary painted eyes in there. Just for now. So we can see the character for what it is. Thanks, Ian. Your stream are amazing. Have a good night. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it. So let's see. This is where we are right now. Hopefully this is going to be so fun. I love it. We're going to have him doing some bodybuilding poses. So we'll start the pose process next week, actually, which will be really cool. And then we'll start getting into some more fun details. All right, guys. So we're going to save it. Thank you guys so much for everything. Gary started juice. Who was that speed sculptor you recommended? I want to add her. Oh, A Cubed. A_cubed, also known as Ashley Adams. Amazing, talented artist. Definitely go check her out. Especially for speed sculpts. If you guys want to join my Discord, hang out with a bunch of just talented artists, it's welcome to all, even if you're not into art. Just like sitting back and watching some fun stuff and want to connect with cool people. Go ahead and check that out. And yeah, with that, we'll call it a night. Unless there's any final questions. 2 minutes. You guys got anything? But we'll start getting... You know what? I'm gonna have to fix his forearm. It's bothering me. Thank you for your stream. I picked up cool stuff. Awesome. Glad I could be helpful. Alright. Save for the millionth time. Alright. Pumped up stream. Woohoo! Alright, guys. Oh, the reference software is called PureRef. PureRef. Alright. I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Have a good night. And I'll see you next Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Bye, 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 bye.